Hello, and welcome to this section on Azure Active Directory, our identity vision and roadmap for strengthening zero trust defenses in an era of hybrid work. I'm Harish Aitaraju. I'm a principal program manager here in the Identity and Networking Engineering team based out of Redmond. And it's really exciting to be among all of you, fundamentally for two reasons. First, out of my 15 years with Microsoft, 9 of which I have spent with many of you, and we may have crossed paths in APAC, based out of Singapore and Malaysia. The second, this is a very passionate topic for me, and I have worked with a lot of partners and system integrators in terms of building their identity practice and their identity deliverables. So grab your favorite drink and let's go into this session. What I really want to cover today are three things: the zero trust principles, 5 strategies for growing and strengthening the identity foundation, and finally, we're going to touch upon how can you get impacted by that? How can you drive that impact? What do you need to do for that? While the challenges continue to evolve, so does the threat landscape. In 2020, our threat intelligence center reported a 230% increase in password spray attacks. On average, 78 GB of data is uploaded monthly to risky apps by the average enterprise. In the month of August 2020 alone, Microsoft detected 5 billion attacker-driven sign-ins. Finally, a third of all those attacks on enterprise accounts involve phishing. So what has really changed? Let's look at the old world versus the new one and the current one. The assumption we made with our models have changed. Let's explore this. The user base has changed to employees, partners, vendors, customers, and machine bots. Machine bots is interesting because this is the new way of identity and how different kind of access happen through bots. We now bring in our own devices and IoT. There's an explosion of cloud apps. Continuum apps, different kind of apps. Monolithic apps to composite apps. Beyond just the corporate firewall to the expanding perimeter. And finally, an explosion of signals. This is where zero trust comes to play. Zero trust is a modern security approach which treats every access attempt like it's coming from an untrusted network. This approach no longer relies on trusting the corporate network and is truly relevant in our current modern work where several of us are working from home, given the situation we are all in today. We are living in a new reality, and that's given. The old assumptions will not keep us secure in the new world. We should no longer believe everything behind the corporate firewall is safe because I was just mentioning to earlier that the firewall is present everywhere. It has just gone. It's not a limited perimeter. It's just exploded. We can't keep operating against those old principles. We need new principles. There are 3 of them that I want to specify over here. The first is verify explicitly. Always authenticate and authorize based on available data points, including user identities, their location, device health, service or workload, data classification, and anomalies. Use least privileged access. Limit user access with just-in-time and just enough access to protect both data and productivity. Finally, assume breach. Minimize the blast radius for breaches and employ security strategy to prevent lateral movement. A holistic approach, and this is where we really define zero trust from our lens and hopefully take it on from through your lens. Our approach to zero trust should extend beyond the entire digital estate. It serves as an integrated security philosophy and an end-to-end strategy. You can do this by implementing zero trust controls and technologies across your 6 foundational elements, and we'll define all those foundational elements. For example, the first one, verify identity. Know who has requested access is essential, and that identity must be validated explicitly, not inferred from the environment. Don't infer that. Ensure you are secure at the point of access by bringing users into a common identity system using strong authentication and threat intelligence to validate authentication. Verify those devices. Allow data access requests and result in transfer of that data to a browser or an app on a device. Knowing the state of that device is critical in a world where devices can be infected, lost, or stolen. Mobile device management, MDM, and MAM, which is mobile application management, are critical to protecting data once it's accessed. Protect data. Whenever possible, data should be protected from unauthorized transfer by auto-classifying and encryption. This protects against intentional or accidental misrouting of data. Harden applications. Application access and configuration must be secured to mitigate intrinsic application risk and to ensure access is governed by policy. Application behavior, including shadow IT, should be understood and monitored and really protecting from anomalies. Protect the infrastructure. When you are using cloud workloads, for example, IaaS or PaaS, ensure you're utilizing your cloud fabric according to the best principles, utilizing the intelligence and protection provided. Govern those networks. Mitigate lateral movements by using an intelligent adaptive segmentation strategy for workloads, monitoring for and protecting for anonymous traffic patterns. Then there are 2 key tools to really tie them together. The first one is policy-driven access. Modern microsegmentation means more than networks. It really means more than networks. It requires that we also gate access based on the role, location, behavior patterns, data sensitivity, client knowledge, and device security. Ensure all the policy is automatically enforced at a time of access and continuously throughout the session where possible. You'll hear more about this innovation in my section later in this presentation, so stay tuned for that. The next part of the 2 is automated threat detection and response. Telemetry from the systems above, which we spoke about, must be processed and acted upon automatically. Attacks happen at cloud speed. Your defenses or your customer's defense system must act at cloud speed as well. And humans just cannot quickly react that quickly enough. Integrate intelligence with policy-based response for real-time protection. Having said that, our integrated set of solutions and capabilities offer built-in zero trust controls that make implementation of zero trust security models across your organization or your customer's organization achievable at scale. Let's walk through how all these pieces really come together. At the heart of the zero trust strategy, you need a policy engine to make dynamic access decisions for trusted users at critical checkpoints. Access to networks, apps, and data. Think of this like the front door. Our identity and access management solutions and endpoint management solution enables your organization to verify users and devices explicitly with rich signals such as device health and risky sign-ins or sign-in risk to make informed decisions based on access policies. Our information protection and cloud security solutions, which you see pointed out on the screen out there, help enforce decisions and protect resources across the entire environment in real time. Our networking solutions help use real-time threat protection to detect and respond to threats across the networks and infrastructure. Finally, our SIM, our Integrated Security Information and Event Management System, and XDR, which is the Extended Detection and Response Solutions, deliver true end-to-end threat protection, detection, and response. This is an important aspect for you as the partner because you may deploy it for your customer or you may be running it in your environment as a managed service for your customers. Taken together, Microsoft Intelligent Security approach helps ensure that not only the right people are getting the right level of access across the organization, elevating both security and end user productivity. Now, let's build out these use cases of how we should think of leveraging the Azure AD Identity and Access Management solution to solve for these scenarios. On the left of the screen, you will see use cases, and on the right, you have the Azure AD capabilities, which we refer to as service plates. We would use a combination of these capabilities to solve for what customers need. To drive successful customer engagements with Azure Active Directory, it is imperative to deep dive into these capabilities. Let's start by getting deeper here by setting up a strong foundation. There are two parts here. One, on the left that you see, we're really asking you start at a great baseline, start with a strong foundation. On the right, there are going to be 5 success criteria, which we'll go through one by one. So, to start with, we really want you to think about how what is your play and a strategy to help build a strong identity foundation. A critical step towards starting a zero trust journey is consolidating secure access to all applications, whether they are on-prem or on the cloud. To get started, Azure AD should be easily synchronized with on-prem Active Directory connected to a cloud HR system, for example, where the users exist, and enabled for external users. External users can be two kinds. They can be business-based external users, like they are in a partnership, or it could be an M&A, which is an acquisition, could be they are dealing with other vendors, or could be business to consumers, who are the consumer kind of users. So we are going to cover both of them, and you will see how it evolves in this discussion. With that, you will enable single sign-on to all apps, including the SaaS apps, cloud-built, custom-built cloud apps or on-prem apps. For on-prem apps, we can use what we have within our offerings called Azure AD Application Proxy. Sometimes we also call it as App Proxy, or one of our secure hybrid access integrations like an Akamai or a Citrix or a F5, Zscaler, and many more, which I will show you in a little bit. These solutions help customers access legacy auth based on applications to use protocols like header-based or Kerberos-based authentication. But then there's also a lot of legacy that exists in customers' environments which they've built across these many years. Your customer's app infrastructure may look like something like this: ADFS or Active Directory Federation Services or other on-prem infrastructures coupled with cloud, coupled with apps, a complicated multi-solution infrastructure that may exist, creates disparate management and definitely multiplied costs. In this example, they have an Active Directory as a user store, but also have a federation server, a web application proxy, and all these bells and whistles of the infrastructure like a networking load balancer. As cloud adoptions accelerated, they have started to connect other apps, SaaS apps like Salesforce, Workday, and their ADFS to get single sign-on. But they also are using Azure AD to manage their Microsoft-based cloud labs like Office 365. This is redundancy. because I have just shown you the capabilities that Azure AD has built in, both for first party and for third party apps. So what happens is you end up with multiple places to manage applications, but also with a significant amount of infrastructure to just support single sign-on. This complication can go even further if you're managing other identity and access management solutions on-premise, like provisioning, governance, and access controls. The functionality and capabilities in ADFS is available within Azure AD and is imperative to migrate customers off ADFS and then bring them on to Azure AD. Now, we spoke about Azure AD App Proxy. But in situations where customers do not want to run the Azure AD App Proxy, they can leverage what we call as secure hybrid access partners as an extension to enable the Zero Trust framework. Your customers can use their existing networking and delivery controllers and easily protect legacy applications. And they can light up those legacy applications and bring it on to Azure AD to complete their whole Zero Trust journey. By having Azure AD as an identity provider, you can use modern authentication and authorizations methods like single sign-on, multi-factor authentications to secure on-prem legacy applications. Innovation continues. Continuous access evaluation is now in preview and is key to our Zero Trust application access. Customers have expressed concerns about the lag between when conditions change for the user, like a network location or a credential theft, and when those policies can be enforced related to that change. Timely response to policy violations or security issues really requires a conversation between the token issuer, like Azure AD, and the relying party, like Exchange Online. This two-way conversation gives us two important capabilities. The relying party can notice when things have changed, like a client coming out from a new location, for example, and tell the token issuer, basically. It also gives the token issuer a way to tell the relying party to stop respecting the token for a given user due to the account compromise, disablement, or any other concerns that may make that particular token a risky one. The mechanism for this conversation is called continuous access evaluation. The goal is for the response to be near real time, but in cases there can be some latency due to the complications and the event propagation time. This initial implementation of continuous access evaluation focuses on Exchange, Teams, and SharePoint Online. In the future, we'll have a lot more that will come in, and we have a great journey ahead that we have planned out for that. Before we wrap up this section, I want to highlight one customer that has experienced this process in action and the benefits they saw from centralizing their app management and migrating their apps from migrating their apps from ADFS to Azure AD. As a final point, general trading company Mitsui & Co. were able to do this and moving their apps from ADFS to Azure AD, which benefited both their employees and their IT department. Thanks to Azure AD, their employees were able to streamline access to these apps that they needed. Meanwhile, the IT department was able to free up a lot more resources, reduce their costs, and now it no longer had to depend on and to maintain a lot of on-prem servers, their certifications, their patch management, etc., etc., etc. It also paved the path for passwordless and password hash sync, both of them which were aspirational, and by doing that they actually have a path ahead of how can they leverage the larger cloud identity capabilities that they can now unfold to. So now that you have connected all the apps to Azure AD and brought all users into Azure AD, let's talk about the first point on why is it important to strengthen your credentials and how you can do it. One of the most important first steps in a Zero Trust journey is to establish strong authentication. As the Microsoft CISO said, Brett Arsenault, hackers don't break in, they log in. So ensure users who they say they are at every given access attempt Regularly reaffirm their trustworthiness. It's important. Multi-factor authentication protects applications by using a second source of validation, like a phone or a token, to verify identity before granting access. With several available authentication methods, and we will go through that, admins can choose one of the best fits for the user workflows. Passwordless methods here help MFA to be more convenient for users. Essentially, passwordless credentials include three form factors. The first is the Microsoft Authenticator. For the greatest flexibility, convenience, and cost, we recommend using the Microsoft Authenticator mobile app. Today, we have over 25 million users of the app with over 50 million downloads. The Authenticator app supports biometrics, push notifications, one-time passcodes for any Azure AD connected app. It's free to download from Apple and Android app stores. The next is Windows Hello. This has over 38,000 tenants with 4.5 million active users, and this is growing. For great built-in experience on the PC, we recommended using Windows Hello. It uses your face or a fingerprint to sign in automatically. The third is FIDO2 security keys, and they are available from several of our partners like Ubico, Fashion Technologies, and HID Global in USB, NFC-enabled badge or biometric keys. So a number of form factors that you can really go ahead and leverage. Overall, we already have over 100 million users of passwordless authentication. And as I said earlier, this number is getting bigger and bigger every day. Continuing on innovation, temporary access pass. This is in preview right now. Let's discuss this scenario in a way that it's like a new employee joining in and you have to ship a laptop to this individual's home. You'd want to start this journey with strong authentication methods the very first time itself. Temporary access pass is in preview right now, and think of this like a time-limited passcode issued by an admin that satisfies strong authentication requirements and can be used to onboard other authentication methods, including passwordless ones. A temporary access pass also makes recovery easier when a user has lost or forgotten strong authentication factors like FIDO2 security keys or Microsoft Authenticator app, but needs to sign in to register new strong authentications method. The article link at the bottom that you would see there on the screen shows you how to enable and use temporary access pass in Azure AD using the Azure portal. You can also perform these actions using REST API, for example. Once you've decided to embark on this journey of passwordless, the next question is really how. We have worked with our customers and documented this approach, which focuses on credential management tasks aligned to a milestone-based journey and time frame. That way, you maximize impact and drive for high usage of passwordless. The matrix that you see on the screen is multidimensional. You have a time frame on one side of what you can really start off with and how deep you can go. And the other side is what are the tasks that you can really go ahead in terms of those credential management that you can take care of. Microsoft's passwordless authentication methods enable different scenarios. Consider the organization needs, their prerequisites and capabilities of each authentication method to select the right passwordless authentication strategy. Of course, we recommend that every organization that uses Windows 10 devices use Windows Hello for Business. Then add either phone sign-ins or security keys for additional scenarios. One great case that we have seen recently is Axiata in Malaysia. Axiata embarked on Microsoft passwordless solutions, especially with biometric Windows Hello for Business sign-in system. Now, with passwordless technology deployed to all employees at its headquarters, they are embarking out to their subsidiaries. Axiata benefits from these seamless connections between this and an array of Microsoft security solutions, making life easier and more secure for over 12,500 of their employees. In summary, The winning strategies for strengthening credentials are enable MFA for all admins in customer tenants, enable FIDO2 for security conscious users, use TAP or temporary access pass to go straight to passwordless, and finally, block legacy authentication. Although I didn't talk about legacy authentications here, it is a critical aspect of getting yourself into a passwordless situation and helping that whole credential path. You can learn a lot more about blocking legacy authentication in our Microsoft.coms, in our docs.microsoft.com, and you can see the scenarios that we have over there, how you can really go ahead and block any kind of a legacy authentication. I just talked about how you can strengthen credentials using some of our capabilities such as phone sign-in and blocking legacy authentication. For strategy 2, we help reduce your surface attack area through multiple scenarios. Like you just saw, the first is conditional access, which helps you easily put some checks into the place such as device sign-ins or MFA requirement. Then there is also the other risk vector to consider, which is basically on governance. And these are your privilege administrators. Let's really unpack this. Conditional access is the #1 benefit that customers quote as a reason for choosing Azure AD. Conditional access policies at their simplest are if-then statements. If a user wants to access a resource, then they must complete an action. For example, a payroll manager wants to access the payroll application and is required to perform a multi-factor authentication to access it. By using conditional access policies, you keep the right access controls when needed so that organizations stay secure and only provide the right kind of users to what they really want, and they can get it. You can help your customers customize and manage automated policies and get reporting on the policies that apply for each sign-ins. This is all about signals, decisions, enforcement. Signals on the leftmost side, decisions in the center part of the screen, and enforcements that gives them access to all those applications on the right side of the screen. Access is easy to grant. And this is the section that we're getting into governance now. Hence, you need the ability to trace who has access to which resources and quickly revoke those accesses when the user no longer needs it. You should be able to apply these controls to both internal and external users. We have built Azure AD identity governance into Azure AD to protect, monitor, and audit access to critical assets. Specifically, it will help with these scenarios. And I have 3 scenarios over here. The first one is to automate the full user lifecycle for onboarding and offboarding users. Connect to HR platforms such as Workday, SuccessFactors to automatically provision and deprovision access to users, enabling new hires to get on started right away and ensuring access is revoked when employees leave the company. Usually, like when we talk about Workday or SuccessFactors, we call them the source of truth. In identity management, that becomes the place where, when people come in, there is a place where we look at what is the source of truth. And applications like this become the source of truth. The second is managing role-based access controls. Azure Active Directory helps you to reduce the risk by using least privilege access principle for admin roles. Implement and automate role-based access controls to ensure people only have administrative access that they need. No need to give them excessive access or full access. If a person has to need certain access, we only give them that much of access, whether it is time-based or it is persona-based. Essentially, Azure AD provides a variety of task-level roles to segregate duties across users, which can be managed with privileged identity management. And all of these come within the Azure AD Premium 2 licenses, P2 or E5 licenses capabilities that you can really make use of. Third one is to simplify access lifecycle with access reviews and certifications. Manage these identity and access lifecycles at scale by automating access requests, workflows, access assignments, reviews, and expiration with entitlement management. Review access is really, it's rights regulated, and you will have the right people to be having it at the right time. At its core, identity governance ensures that the right people have the right access to the right resources, as I was just mentioning to you a little earlier. Now we can continue on this journey on governance, and furthermore, to really reduce your surface attack, you would want more advanced capabilities. And that comes with our advanced governance solutions such as entitlement management. Entitlement management provides life cycle management for your employees as well as your non-employees, such as your business partners or vendors. That means your customers can leverage and they can create predefined packages of resources that contain resources such as groups, apps, and SharePoint sites. You can then define policies, who can request access for how long, and include approval workflows. Finally, users access is time bound and is renewed via Azure AD access reviews. I also wanted to bring out something that is in preview right now. This preview showcases a powerful bundle of new Azure AD features in conditional access and Azure. Admins can gain even more control over access in the organization and manage a growing number of conditional access policies. And Azure AD authentication for virtual machines deployed in Azure. It's a lot more control that you can get based on this. The new capabilities enable a whole new set of scenarios, such as restricting access to resources from privileged access workstations or even specific countries or regions based on GPS locations. And with this capability to search, sort, filter policies, as well as monitor recent changes to your policies, you can work even more efficiently, and that drives more productivity. Name locations at scale. This is an important aspect that you would be looking at. It's now easier to create and manage IP-based name locations with support from IPv6 addresses. IPv6 addresses, for example, increased number of ranges allowed, and additional checks for malformed addresses. With search, sort, and filter policies, as the number of policies in a tenant grow, we have made it easier to find and manage these individual policies. So far, we have been speaking about all what we can do inside the organization. Now, let's look at what we can do with our consumers, what we call as B2C, or our consumer users. Here's some fantastic news when it comes to consumer-facing apps and users. We just announced the same goodness with conditional access and identity protection for B2C apps and users. This enables you to protect the B2C users with granular risk and location-based access controls. With these features, you can secure your end customers' identities, and detailed risk reports and adaptive authentication policies that can block access, challenge with multi-factor authentication, or reset a password depending on parameters you define, and strengthen our zero trust approach to B2C users, all the consumer users. An example that I wanted to actually call out here is ASOS. ASOS is one of the world's largest online fashion retailers. Their administrators spent hours manually loading CSV files to apps for new hires and manually closing accounts. This was time-consuming governance process, very human-driven, and it is definitely error-prone. ASOS now uses Azure AD as a provisioning orchestration layer between its HR systems, Workday, and most of their SaaS apps, including Office 365, Workplace by Facebook, Slack, ServiceNow, and Atlassian Cloud. They automatically feed the identities from the HR source of truth into Azure AD and push in the appropriate attributes to each SaaS app. Now, employees get single sign-on access to workplace tools that they need. Administrators don't need to manage multiple identities across multiple applications. Changes they enter in Workday automatically trickle in through their entire app. Automated deprovisioner really helps them to shut down those accounts within hours of the employee leaving the organization. And that way you see the entire life cycle of how they manage is what I was telling you earlier between the joiner, mover, and lever is completely lit up in the Asosa's use case here and customer use case here. Automated provisioning and deprovisioning of users is also taken care of. And this has completely helped ASOS to take away the human error and put it really out of the equation. In summary, the winning strategies for reducing their attack surface are enablement of JIT, which is basically just in time, access via privileged identity management, block invalid authentication points via conditional access, perform lifecycle management via entitlement management, periodically rectify privileged users via access reviews, review admins to elevate permissions when needed for sensitive apps. This leads to our third part of it, which is automating threat response. Identity protection continually improves our machine learning. This is our ML capability that we've built in and for Azure AD. Not just using heuristics, but leveraging machine in our real-time session risk evaluations. This is the best way to protect your users because outside of these policies and rules that are configured, our system keeps on refining those risks. It never takes anything very lightly. Remember that. Our new ML system logic with real-time session risk assessments evaluates and continuously improves and evolves to secure users better. We have new high-risk blocking with improved IP blocking and smart lockout. By refining the risk level of each real-time detection, we have seen significant improvement in the precision of these detections. Identity protection identifies risk in the following classification that you see out there in the screen. And these risk signals can trigger remediation efforts such as requiring users to perform, let's say, an Azure AD MFA or reset their password using self-service password reset, or blocking until an administrator takes action. So a ton of such capabilities are there. Now let's look at Bridgewater as a customer case study here. To support their increasing remote workforce, not surprising, collaboration with partners and allowing access to data in the cloud, Bridgewater Capital really needed to reevaluate its security perimeter. Azure AD conditional access and intelligent security graph are two foundation elements and parts of the Bridgewater zero trust strategy, and they found it being super effective in helping them to get there. And zero trust, as I was saying earlier, it's a journey. It's not a one-time fix. In summary, the winning strategies for automating threat responses are requiring MFA or block risky sign-ins via conditional access and in identity protection. At the same time, enforce secure password change or block risky users. Which gets on to the fourth one. In this section, we are going to show you how you can and should leverage rich analytics that we offer to better monitor and secure your customer's environment. Each day, our machine learning and heuristic systems provide risk scores for 18 billion login attempts for over 800 million distinct accounts, 300 million of which are done by adversaries, entities like criminal actors, hackers, and that number keeps increasing. Risk is evaluated in every session and in every step. Auth happens behind the scenes during policy enforcement, and those are their actions. Extending that policy enforcement into an application session allows us to strengthen protections after the initial access of the decision has been made. Let's explore some examples here in how session monitoring really helps and controls everything here. First one of these four is to limit access to read-only and block sensitive data from being downloaded when unmanaged devices are used. Second, prevent the upload of unlabeled files. Third, apply labels and protections to documents being downloaded. Fourth, monitor risky user sessions. Enable investigation and analyze those user behaviors to understand where and under what condition sessions should be applied in the future. Now, with all those logs and with all those data that you have captured and evolved and all the signals that you're getting, we should not also look, we should also look at how we can finally bring that and see where do we build it from a dashboard perspective. What is our SIM over here? Azure Sentinel consumes all of that. And as partners, I would say that this is an area that either you're deploying it for your customer or you are managing it for your customer, and these you'll be able to see a lot of such detections. You could see a lot of false positives. You can see a lot of the real risks that are coming in, and then you can take preventive actions that really help your customer increase that entire posture over there. The service is built on Microsoft's experience of protecting consumer identity and gains tremendous accuracy from the signal from over 13 billion logins a day. Numbers are many. In this example, Vodafone provides communication services across 24 markets with partner mobile networks in 42 more locations. Because Vodafone provides critical national infrastructure for millions of its customers, it faces extensive scrutiny and compliance challenges. These challenges slowed the company's adoption of cloud service until it implemented Microsoft 365, which includes security and compliance capabilities such as Microsoft Information Protection that help protect data across its cloud infrastructure. With Microsoft's security and compliance solutions, Vodafone can confidently move forward with its digital transformation. In summary, what did we learn here? The winning strategies for utilizing cloud intelligence are quite few of them here. First one, watch for alert emails, privilege identity maximum activation, and identity protection. Check the identity secure score. Monitor Azure AD audit and sign-in logs. Strengthen the conditional access policies and privilege identity management via insight reporting. Create dashboards with Azure AD logbooks, for example, or workbooks, for example. Take all the signals and then bring it into your SIM strategy or your SOAR strategy. Which brings us to the fifth strategy, delegate end users with self-service. I want to actually start off with a story here. Woodgrove Bank IT is looking to empower a lot of its users and business teams to do more of self-help so that their IT organization becomes more productive and helps also at the same time where users also a part of that whole security play by itself. Improving end user experience and productivity continues to be the number one priority for CISOs. Seamless access with single sign-on is one of the most essential steps towards making employees more productive. A recent Forrester study states that employees can save up to 10 minutes a day when they no longer need to retype or re-enter or retype passwords or even reset passwords. For large organizations, these savings add up to tens of millions of dollars, or probably even millions of dollars, if not tens of millions of dollars. We are also investigating in, We are also investing in end user self-service tools like what you see on the screen over there, like modern and customizable app launch portal and self-service password reset. These are capabilities that really help to drive a lot of the individual user experience. The other one is access reviews. With Azure AD access reviews, you can manage access packages and group memberships, access to enterprise applications, privileged roles assignments to make sure your customers really maintain a security standard. Regular oversight by users themselves, resource owners, and other reviews ensure that users don't retain access for extended periods of time when they no longer need it. In this example, the Little Potato Company uses a multi-layered access management approach designed to protect assets while giving employees easy access to the resources they need. Through device compliance and multi-factor authentication, mobile device management, single sign-on to web apps, and biometric or PIN-based sign-ins, it aims to reduce and eventually eliminate password usage and follow a zero-trust security model. It also recently enabled always-on virtual private networks to improve the work-from-home experience for employees working remotely during the COVID-19 pandemic. In summary, winning strategies for end-user self-service are empower users with self-service password reset and group or application access, maintain access compliance with Azure AD access reviews, create access reviews via entitlement management, train users how to self-report risky sign-ins and verify their security contact information. All of these going into building that winning strategy. We spoke about 5 of those strategies. These 5 strategies are also the 5 key deployment journeys to really help to drive zero trust. It's now time to recap what we just spoke. These 5 steps will help you to get more zero trust posture by using capabilities of Azure Active Directory and ensuring that you inoculate your customers against cyber attacks. These winning strategies will help you quickly deploy critical recommended actions to protect your customers immediately. Now that we spoke about the deployment journey, let's really look at how can we help enable you as a partner to get there. We recently launched 2 certifications, the SC300 and the SC500, for your people to go ahead and get themselves certified and get deeper into it. For example, the admin part of SC300, which is the deep level course, consists of 4 modules. In these 4 modules, they will go through all the journeys that I had really spoken about on those 5 areas which you really need to invest, including the modernization part, which is really the baseline in starting that whole identity play, or the cloud identity play that you're looking out for. The other one is SC900. I would really advise a lot of your team members who are frontline, who are speaking to customers from a pre-sales perspective, or just evangelizing a lot of that, really to go and look at that SC300, a great course for them. 2 great courses that we have launched really helps you push your boundaries with your customers. The next is at Ignite. We had a number of sessions on identity. Have a look at that. There's a link for each of those sessions, including on very, very interesting topic that we are really very passionate about here in the identity engineering team, which is verifiable credentials. Look at that, where we change the way of in the future of how identity can be leveraged, and how it all depends on a multi-tier ecosystem where we trust others, bringing their secure identity into and get them qualified to get the right kind of access at the right kind of time. Look out for those sessions. Super interesting. Next, I also wanted to spend a little bit of time in terms of how can you build this as a practice within your organization. There are 9 bullet points out there. Each of one defines whether it's a business plan or a maturity model, or you want to do a demo, or do you want to see how other customers did it. How do you build a practice around all of these is listed out on those 9 links out there, which help you build a complete zero trust deliverable for your organization, which means that you can really go ahead and impact your customers. Finally, it's the time to say thank you. I really enjoyed speaking to you. This was a fantastic session, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Until I meet next time, thank you and have a great rest of the day.